Open the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 1. You've heard it before. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's printed in every Bible, preached in every church. But almost no one tells you what it actually means. The English hides something, the Greek reveals something, and what it reveals is nothing less than a spiritual revolution buried for 2,000 years. The verse isn't just poetic, it's explosive. The original Greek doesn't say word the way we understand it in modern English. The Greek uses logos. But logos doesn't mean word in the sense of language or speech. Logos means the divine reason, the structuring principle of reality, the metaphysical intelligence behind all things. In ancient Greek philosophy and later Gnostic thought, the logos is the very emanation of the infinite. It is not created. It is not separate. It is not symbolic. It is the source. Stepping forward, if you're already feeling the gravity of what this could mean, pause for a second. Make sure you're subscribed. This kind of content gets buried fast. Drop a comment below with where in the world you're watching from and what time it is there. We want to know where the chosen ones are waking up. And if this is blowing your mind even a little bit, share this video with someone else who's ready to understand the mystery hidden in plain sight. The church buried it. We're unearthing it. In the Greek, the phrase is en arche en ho logos. Kai ho logos en pros ton theon. Kai theos en ho logos. That last line is critical. It doesn't say the logos resembled God. It says the logos was God. The identification is complete. No hierarchy. No division. One essence. And even more intriguing, pros ton theon doesn't just mean with God. It implies active orientation. The logos is turned toward God in constant communion. It is a relational unity, not passive coexistence. This subtle shift in translation from with to toward alters everything. It means the logos exists not alongside the divine, but within its direct expression, gazing, merging, flowing as a dynamic facet of the monad. The monad, in Gnostic cosmology, is the ineffable source, the unnameable origin point, the singular consciousness from which all reality emanates. Unlike the hierarchical God of organized religion, the monad doesn't rule from above. It radiates outward in layers of consciousness. Like ripples on water, the logos is the first ripple, the first self-reflection of the infinite. It is God's awareness made intelligible, not an angel, not a prophet, but pure divine consciousness. And then John's Gospel takes it even further, and the logos became flesh and dwelt among us. This moment is where centuries of theology diverge. The institutional church transformed this into an exclusive miracle. Jesus became flesh. Worship him, obey him, and stay small. You are not like him. But that is not what John meant. The logos didn't become flesh to be different. It became flesh to reveal what you are capable of becoming. The early Gnostics read this as a blueprint, not a biography. Jesus is the incarnation of the logos. Yes, but as demonstration, not exception. The divine consciousness incarnates to awaken other sparks of the same source. Those who recognize it within themselves are not followers. They are initiates. Awakened ones. Remembering what they already are. John's Gospel wasn't written to form a religion. It was written to light a fuse. And it begins with that overlooked verse. The logos is eternal, uncreated, one with the monad. And that logos became flesh not to separate divinity from humanity, but to show that there is no separation. Why did the institutional church bury this? Because the moment you realize the divine lives within you, you no longer need permission. You no longer need priests, rituals, or dogma. You need only to remember. And that's dangerous for any system built on control. They taught you to revere Jesus as untouchable. But the Gospel of John teaches something radical, that you are what he is. Waiting to wake up, that you, too, are the logos in flesh. The monad remembering itself through your eyes. That's why John 1:1 wasn't just a beautiful opening. It was a coded message. A challenge to the spiritual status quo. A whisper across time to those with ears to hear. Jesus didn't reveal a new religion. He revealed the original source. And the moment you see it, the illusion of separation begins to crumble. This isn't metaphor. It isn't poetry. It is instruction, recognition, liberation. If John had stopped at, "The Logos became flesh," it would already be revolutionary. But he didn't. He went further. In verses 12 and 13, he laid bare a truth that would shake the foundation of religious power. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That's the part the church repeats selectively. It comforts. It uplifts. But only halfway. Verse 13 reveals what this really means: who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Not adopted. Not symbolically accepted. Born of God. Originating from the same source as the Logos. The Greek word used, geno, means begotten, not converted. It's about origin, not ritual. This isn't about joining a church or praying the right words. This is about remembering that your essence comes from the monad. You are not a servant of God. You are the divine in human form. This is not arrogance. It's awakening. The church took born again and turned it into a ceremony: baptism, confession, altar calls. But John was talking about something far deeper, a conscious recognition that your soul is not manufactured by biology or belief. It is divine awareness wrapped in human experience. This is exactly why Jesus, in John 10:34, quoted Psalm 82, "Is it not written in your law? I have said you are God's?" Not you might become God someday. Not only if you behave perfectly. But you are God's, present tense. Already. Always. The statement enraged the religious leaders of his time, and it continues to unsettle religious authorities today. The claim was never that Jesus alone was divine. The Gnostic reading reveals that Jesus was pointing to what lies within every awakened being. The Logos didn't come to be worshipped. It came to be recognized. This interpretation was spiritual dynamite. It bypassed the need for institutional intercession. It declared each person as a spark of the monad, capable of returning to source through direct knowing gnosis. No hierarchy. No gatekeepers. Just divine remembrance. And that's precisely why the early church suppressed it. In a world beginning to organize itself around doctrine and control, this kind of mystical egalitarianism was dangerous. Consider the cultural climate in which the Gospel of John emerged. Between 90 and 100 AD, Christianity was rapidly evolving from scattered spiritual communities into centralized authority. Theologies were being codified. Leaders were consolidating power. And mystic voices, especially those echoing Gnostic themes, were being silenced. John's Gospel, with its luminous metaphysical depth, was too beloved to burn. So it was reinterpreted, flattened, sanitized. The mystical manual became a storybook. The call to inner awakening was repackaged as a command to obey. But the Greek remained, and in it, the truth continued to whisper. To be born of God is not a reward, it is a reality. The moment of awakening isn't when you're saved. It's when you remember. When you see through the illusion of separation. When you realize that the distance between yourself and the divine was never real to begin with. This is not religion. This is recognition. And it changes everything. What happens when people awaken to this? The whole structure collapses. The system that says you must earn grace, pay tithes, obey authority, wait for heaven, all of it dissolves. Because heaven is not elsewhere. It is the recognition of your original nature. The Gospel of John becomes not a message of worship, but of reclamation. You are not the follower. You are the flame. You are not beneath God. You are born of God. The Logos made flesh isn't a story about Jesus. It's a mirror, held up to you. The Gospel of John doesn't just make its radical claim in the opening verses and walk away. It carries that fire through every chapter, embedding metaphysical truths into the teachings and encounters of Jesus. When read through the lens of gnosis, The gospel becomes less a record of miracles and more a step-by-step initiation, a manual for spiritual awakening. One of the clearest stages of that initiation is found in chapter 3. In the nocturnal conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus, Jesus says, "Unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." Nicodemus, baffled, takes this literally, can a man enter his mother's womb a second time? But Jesus wasn't speaking of flesh. He was speaking of consciousness. The rebirth he describes isn't biological. It's existential. He says, "You must be born of water and spirit. Water the material form. Spirit the monad spark." It's the moment when ego dissolves and divine awareness emerges. The Church institutionalized this as baptism, a ritual of inclusion. But John encoded something far deeper, a shift in self-identity. The you that identifies as a limited human must die. The I that remembers its divine source must be born. This is not doctrine. It's transformation. This is not religion. It's metamorphosis. Then in chapter 6, Jesus intensifies the mystery. "I am the bread of life," he says. Not, "I offer the bread." He is the bread. He is the sustenance. But again, the Church reduced this into a ritual communion. The Eucharist. The eating of wafers and drinking of wine. But in Greek, his statement carries a deeper resonance. He uses the phrase ego eimi I am, the same phrase spoken by the divine presence in Exodus, "I am that I am." Jesus isn't claiming a personal identity. He's identifying with eternal being itself. The bread is not a metaphor for physical food. It is the teaching, the realization of the Logos nature within. And he says, "Whoever eats this bread will never die." Not because they become immortal in body, but because they cease to identify with the body. The monad doesn't die. Consciousness doesn't end. It flows, transmutes, and returns. Those who awaken to their true nature stop fearing death because they recognize they were never born in the way they thought. They are not time-bound identities. They are timeless emanations. This teaching continues in chapter 8. When Jesus says something that shocked his audience, "Before Abraham was, I am." Not I was, I am. Present tense. Outside of time. This wasn't a claim of age. It was a declaration of eternal consciousness. The same divine presence that existed before history now speaks through flesh. And the implication is clear, that consciousness isn't exclusive. It is the Logos, the monad expressed, available to be remembered by all chosen ones. Each of these verses, when read with eyes unclouded by centuries of dogma, reveal the same truth in different forms. You are not who you think you are. You are not the personality, the body, the story. You are the Logos remembering itself. Jesus' teachings are not merely about salvation. They are instructions for realization. Every I am spoken in John is not just about him. It is an echo meant to activate you. The reason this reading is so dangerous to institutional religion is because it collapses all the scaffolding. If you are eternal consciousness, you don't need intermediaries. If you carry the monad spark, then no ritual can add to or subtract from your essence. This isn't philosophy, it's liberation. It's spiritual rebellion, not against God, but against the illusion of separation. The Gospel of John, when decoded, becomes a ladder back to source, not by climbing, but by remembering you never left. If any verse in the Gospel of John posed an existential threat to religious hierarchy, it was this: I and the Father are one. John 10:30 is often cited as proof of Jesus' divine uniqueness. But in context and in Greek it reveals something far more subversive. Jesus wasn't establishing a hierarchy between himself and others. He was demonstrating union. The Logos and the monad are not two. They are the same consciousness, aware of itself through human form. And if Jesus, as the embodiment of Logos, could realize this unity, so could others. The shock wasn't in the claim. The danger was in the implication that anyone could realize the same truth. To make this clearer, John records Jesus praying in chapter 17. And his words are nothing short of a revelation, that they all may be one. Just as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be in us. He doesn't pray for metaphorical harmony. He prays for literal oneness, the same union he experiences with the monad to be shared by all who recognize the truth. This was not meant to elevate Jesus but to invite others into the same awareness. If taken seriously, this single passage dismantles the need for religious intermediaries. It leaves no space for clerical power, and the early church knew it. By the 4th century, the leaders of institutional Christianity were no longer focused on mystical awakening. They were building empires. Councils like Nicaea began solidifying doctrine, defining orthodoxy, and criminalizing deviation. The teaching of personal divine identity, central to Gnostic Christianity, was declared heretical. Gnostic texts were hunted and burned, their teachers persecuted. And yet, the Gospel of John was too well loved to eliminate. So the strategy changed. Don't destroy it, redefine it. Interpret every claim of unity as a unique divine status. Make Jesus special so no one else could follow. Elevate the mystery beyond reach. Make it worship, not recognition. But the Greek remained silent, waiting. The original words could not be altered, only misread. Logos still meant divine order, not spoken word. Geno still meant begotten, not adopted. Pros still meant toward, not beside. For centuries, the Church built layers of interpretation over a core they feared. And now, with modern understanding of ancient languages and rediscovered Gnostic writings, that core is being uncovered again. The message is clear. Jesus didn't come to be worshipped. He came to remind. The Gospel of John isn't a divine exception, it's a divine blueprint. A manual encoded for those who were ready to see. Not in parables, not hidden in metaphor, but in plain Greek. It's a progression of awakening, from recognition of the Logos, to rebirth in consciousness, to realization of eternal identity, to full union with Source. Not for one man, but for every chosen one. This is why the gospel still burns centuries later. Not because it built a religion, but because it holds a truth that religion could never contain. The monad secret was never truly hidden. It was buried under ritual, masked by translation, guarded by institutions afraid of what it might unleash. But now the words are read anew. The veil is lifted, and what remains is the same spark that burned at the beginning. You are the Logos. You are the monad in flesh. The Gospel of John proves it, not through myth, through memory. The time of separation is ending. The hierarchy has cracked. What was always true is now seen, that you are not becoming divine, you are remembering that you always were. This is not blasphemy. It is return. Not rebellion against God, but reunion with God. And no institution can stop it.